Welcome to the Virtual Millionaire Show, the ultimate destination for all things real estate investing. I'm your host, Michael McDonald, a real estate investor based out of Las Vegas, and I am on a mission to help you scale your real estate business. This podcast is designed to educate, motivate, and inspire you on your journey to becoming a virtual millionaire in the world of real estate. We bring to you experts from successful owners across the country who share actionable advice that you can implement immediately. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and tools needed to launch and grow your real estate investing business, paving the way for financial success. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Property Pros Marketing. Property Pros Marketing drives motivated seller leads directly to you through digital marketing. Check them out at propertyprosmarketing.com. Now, let's get started with another episode of the Virtual Millionaire Show. Welcome back. I have today with me a very special guest, another Midwest guy, which I can always appreciate. Super excited to have Neil Timmons join us today. Neil, what's up, man? How you doing today?
Michael, good to see you, man. I'm doing great. Yes, our Midwest connection from just down the road on an interstate, not far from one another.
Yeah.
Originally speaking, that is. And so it's good to see you again. We just were together here not long ago, so I'm glad to see you here virtually.
Absolutely. It's always nice to get out of the Midwest. I love the Midwest, but it's always fun to go soak up some sun. And we got to do that a little bit out in Tampa. So that was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
But at any rate, man, so for people who are tuning in, there's going to be a wide variety of people. And so we want to kind of speak to them about where you started. And so let's go there and introduce yourself first and then tell people a little bit about you and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I'm out of Iowa, so right in the Midwest, right in the smack dab in the middle in Des Moines, Iowa. I cut my teeth as a real estate agent. So originally, when I got out of school, I went to University of Nebraska at Omaha, played football. That's how I ended up there. Moved over from Iowa. I graduated, went to work for a bank, was in banking for a couple of years. And my mom, who raised myself, my three younger brothers, was like, you know what? All the kids are out. It's time for me to go do something. What should I do? And I said, you know what? You'd make a good realtor, Mom. She thought about it for a handful of seconds. She's like, all right, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. So she went and did it. That's how much she thought about it for like literally 10 seconds. She was like, that sounds good. You're right. I do like people and I like houses. And so a year goes by. She's telling me how much she made. She made twice as what I made working at Wells Fargo. And I was like, forget this. If you can do that, I can do better, Mom. We come from a very competitive household with
I can tell. Yeah.
Three brothers, everybody played every sport. So that's where I got in. That was my entry point into real estate, was that of an agent hawking houses.
Okay. I like the reference of hawking houses.
Yeah.
Are you an Iowa fan now or?
Yeah, good question. Yes. You know, how did I end up over in Omaha? It's because they paid me to go to school, right? So
I was going to ask. They don't even have a program anymore, do they?
Not anymore. No, I don't know what year it was, but all of a sudden they went Division I in a number of sports, football not being one of them, and then immediately eliminated the program from the school.
All right.
So my friends and I, we always joke about that.
All right. Well, we may have to just pause right here because you're an Iowa fan. No, I'm just kidding. I'll give you a break.
I like Iowa. I like Iowa State. This is where I'm from. My father played at Iowa State, and my brother went to Iowa. And so between Iowa and State, I cheer for those two, and never do I cheer for Nebraska.
I wouldn't expect you to, and nor will you find any Nebraska people cheering for Iowa.
That's true. Yeah.
Now, I could talk sports all day long, but we're going to talk real estate. And, you know, I love this about your journey is because a lot of people start as a real estate agent typically, right? Yeah. And so you found out that real estate was the way, being an agent. How was that transition of being an agent, and how long were you an agent before you decided that maybe there's a better, more profitable?
Way too long. I can tell you that. So, and part of that is, you know, why? Because I found success as an agent. Was Rookie of the Year my first year. 4 years later, 5 years later, somewhere in that range, I became the number one RE/MAX agent in the state of Iowa. Owned a RE/MAX for a number of years, and then eventually sold my RE/MAX, and then found my way at that point to go, all right, now I've got a pretty good chunk of money. What do I do with it? And then it was, let's enter into the investing piece, and that's how I put my toe in the water, if you will, bought my first rental property, and it really has not been that many years ago now that I say that. And that led me along my investing journey.
Amazing. Okay. So I don't ever want to sound like I'm knocking an agent, because I think being an agent is a great skill set to start into, and you became really good at it. And I'm not surprised because you're an athlete, right? So
Sure.
I'm sure that had a huge impact about your work ethic,
Yeah.
all of that. And so how long ago was that when you were owning Remax? You did Remax, you transitioned out of that. Did you go through any trying times at all during the recession of 2008, or have you been in that long?
No, I killed it.
I figured as much.
No, I'm not saying that in a braggadocious fashion. I killed it because, and this will be true for all investors. This is true for anybody, no matter what you do. I don't ever competed against the economy. I only competed against other people.
I love that.
Right. And so the economy went to hell in a handbasket. And as a result, a whole bunch of real estate agents stopped renewing their license. They just quit. And so when I compete against other people and there's just fewer other people, we just picked up market share like crazy. Myself, and at that point I had a team, a number of people, built a team out. And that's why we did so. We thrived in a challenging economic environment.
Okay. I love this because you have such a good point. And it is really only the people who let the economy determine their outcome. Like,
Sure.
That was a huge opportunity, and you took major advantage of it, and you maximized everything. And I can have so much respect for that. Now, with that being said, you talked about buying a rental property.
Yeah.
You're a commercial real estate guy.
Yep.
How was that? How long did it take you before you transitioned from that single family to commercial, or did you jump right into commercial?
No, so I'd have to go back and tell you, so I'm going to ballpark it. Let's say about 7 years ago, I bought my first rental house. Prior to that, I'd fixed and flipped a handful. Then eventually I bought my first rental house that I actually kept and started buying more houses. A number of I kept, a number I flipped. And, fast forward a few years, flipped hundreds of homes, built a rental portfolio, a number of B-class assets, but a whole bunch of C-class assets. And then eventually I found myself at a point where I was going, this house thing's kind of terrible. It is anything but passive. That might be like the greatest lie in history, is that rental houses are passive, because they are not at all. And so I got turned on to a commercial property, and, I had that thought. I call it a little Eeyore voice that ran through my head at the time going, you know what? I didn't study this. I'm not in commercial real estate. I don't have the connections. I don't know enough about banking. But anytime I've been met with a decision in my life to go down a different path, I'd always ask myself the same question: is what I'm doing now going to get me to where I want to go? And if the answer is no, it means I need to take a new action. And so I swallowed that up, did everything I could to understand, to deep dive, to get my head wrapped around that opportunity and move forward, and bought that property and still own it today, about 5 years later.
Okay. Wow. So I have so many questions here to piggyback off this. But first I want to talk about that transition, because I'm in a single family investor.
Yeah.
I do own a small 12-unit apartment complex. However, I have aspirations to own commercial office buildings, self-storage, a lot of the things that you own and are mastering.
Yeah.
And so how does somebody make that transition? Is it really just drawing the line in the sand and continuing to do this over here, but also over here? Or do you just make that complete shift and say, hey, no more single family, I'm a commercial guy?
Yeah. It depends on what your goals are, the cash flow position, what you can afford to do. But you can just buy one asset at a time. You don't have to burn all the ships, if you will, to just go in there. But set a goal, be diligent about that, and then set a goal that becomes an outcome and a time frame to accomplish that goal. And then it's time to back into that goal, meaning what are the actions that are going to lead me to that outcome?
Okay. Yeah. So very simply put, and really it's just a decision and thinking about the end in mind. And so,
Correct.
With that being said, what does your portfolio look like today, and what are you up to today?
Yeah. So, you hit on it. We own a number of assets at this point: office, medical office, industrial, retail, self-storage, mobile home park, apartments. So multiple asset classes.
Okay.
And what are we up to today? It's largely focused on industrial property. So that is really the core focus this year. We just had a closing just a couple of days ago, another 15,000 square foot industrial property with a couple of extra lots that we can develop or sell. So kind of a multiple exit strategies relative to the extra lots, buildable lots that came with it. And we've got another property, another flex property under contract, closings sometime here this summer. So
Okay.
that is really the focus, is industrial and flex property, which is just a subset of industrial.
Right on. Okay. Awesome. And now, is that going to be in Iowa, or where are you looking for these assets at?
Through the Midwest. That's the benefit of being in Iowa is I'm not far from much, right? A couple hours to Nebraska, 3 hours to Illinois, 3 hours to Kansas City, 3 hours to Minneapolis. If I really wanted to stretch it, we push that a little further. We're down into Arkansas and a couple acquisitions. So really and then some conversations in Michigan. So really this core Midwest, 6, 7 states right through the center.
Okay, awesome. So now, for somebody who might be intimidated by industrial, like that just sounds like some massive stuff, which it is.
Right.
And so when I saw that post, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I wonder what exactly you're going to do with that building, and like, how do you, we can't get into the evaluation of it. Like, there's a lot that goes into that, but like, what do you look for in a property like that?
Well, let's just talk about that one, because I can hit evaluation at a very high level for that one real quick. So that one, I'm rounding here. It's 15,000 square feet of industrial, 3,000 of which is an office, and the rest is all warehouse type space. 2.5 acres, big giant parking lot. All the parking lots all fenced in, and then it came with 2 separate lots, which we can, either build. We won't spec build, so we'll build to suit, meaning somebody wants 20,000 square feet. We bid it out, and they sign a 10 or 15-year lease. Great. Or we sell the lots. So the evaluation for us is this. We've got a tenant in there now. They're moving out. So it becomes, what is it going to lease for when they move out? How long is it going to take the lease? What's that building worth given that lease rate that we think we can achieve? Okay, great. And we can put a price together, a valuation together on that. And then 2 different lots. What are they worth? If we sell them off, what are they worth? And if they're a build to suit, it gets even better. So we did the worst case scenario there. We sell them off. What are those things worth? And then just put the budget together. And from there, it becomes a red light, green light. Is it going to pass? Is it going to pass for us? Green light, or is it fails? Does it fall short? And if it does fall short, where are we going to have to be from a price to turn into a green light?
Okay. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense. Very straightforward. So with that being said, I think a big part of people's, concern, maybe when it comes to commercial, is how am I going to get the money for this deal? And so, do you mind sharing some numbers as far as like what the acquisition was, and then how much money you had to raise, and maybe how you came about getting that money?
Yeah, well, this was an anomaly for us because paid $900,000 for that thing, and that thing was just a cash purchase for us.
Wow, that sounds incredibly.
We sold the building last year, so we were in a cash position to be able to just close that thing on out. What we will end up doing, and I suspect over the course of a year, we'll have some traction on 1 of the lots, perhaps 2 of the lots. And then we'll certainly have a tenant in the building by the time these people move out in a couple of months and re-tenant the building. We'll just go in and refinance and pull cash out at that point in time.
Okay, awesome. So, and the good old cash refi. Good tax deferred. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then go do it again. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Beautiful. Okay. So now, as far as commercial, like, what should people be looking for to be acquiring these assets? Like, if I wanted to go find a property like that and buy it, who should I be talking to? What should I be looking for? And I know this is all depending on what I want as far as buy box.
What you want naturally. Yeah, what your buy box is. But let's say you've established your buy box. Great. And then it's a function of, you've got 2 avenues in which you can drum up leads. Either you can go seller direct. And for seller direct, it's all the house stuff, meaning mail them, text them, call them. The methodologies of communicating with somebody are exactly the same no matter what. So same methodologies apply. Or this is where it's a little different in the commercial side, or you go to a broker, because in the house side, you don't go to a broker, right? You're not going to talk to an agent in today's environment. Well, none of us have bought houses from agents in years, right? But on the commercial side, you go to an agent and you build a relationship with the agent. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they turn you on to something that's off market, ideally. And that's where you get your shot and can pull the trigger from there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what we do and in the off market residentials, that's all we do is direct to seller. Pretty good at it. And with that being said, I hear a lot of people buying property in these situations from agents. Are you not buying properties from agents in many cases?
On the commercial side, yes. On the residential side, no.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. On the commercial side, yes, we've bought from every methodology you can imagine on the commercial side, direct to seller, through mail, through text, through phone call, cold calls, meaning, and also through agents, building relationships with agents and then buying that way.
Okay, cool. So what does your team look like today then, Neil?
We've got an acquisitions person on our team. He's been with us for a couple of years. I've got a right-hand gal who makes everything happen here in the office. We've got a transaction coordinator. I've got a part-time admin. And then we have just started with 2 other acquisition folks who are doing some things for us part-time as they're in the real estate industry. They have their own careers in the real estate industry. So they're doing some acquisitions for us as well. And we're only about a month into that. So things are going really well down that path.
Okay. Now, do you do any single family acquisitions at this point?
We're still buying some things single family. It's not a lot, but we're still buying single family. I think we bought 3 this month. What is today? The 12th. So we're still buying 3-ish, 4-ish a month. Not as much as we used to though.
And then just flipping, holding, or what?
Yeah,
what's the
flipping.
strategy?
No, 100% flip. We held one last year because I knew it was a really good short-term rental, meaning it's a nice high-end property. We bought it at a very fair price. And I knew they'd only be in there for about 7 or 8 months. And so, in fact, I was just at the house yesterday. They just moved out. And so now we get to bring the home to market in the prime time of year.
That's great.
And so everything else, no, we're not holding any single family rentals. In fact, I'm a net seller of single family rentals. I should be out of most of my C-class stuff sometime in the next quarter. All that money just rolls up. Just put it to work in the commercial side, take the depreciation in the commercial side so we can offset any income.
Okay. So I think a big comment that you made in the beginning may have a lot of people's gears turning in regards to single family houses do not really cash flow, especially in a climate like this. And you didn't say this specifically, but from your experience, what else can you say about that? Like from your experience of having single family houses?
Yeah, that it's a nightmare. I'm telling you this because, I've owned 50 of them or so.
Yeah.
I still have some B-class stuff, really solid stuff. It's good. You can't buy the stuff today. I've been able to buy a solid B-class thing and put appropriate debt on it in 3.5 years now because the pricing ran up just so stinking hard in that B-class stuff. And so that's been the challenge. So where do you get things to cash flow? You get them to cash flow in C-class properties that are extraordinarily challenged to manage. Something is always going wrong. I've had everything go wrong. Everything you can imagine that could go wrong has gone wrong. I've had a water line break in the middle of a 4-lane street. As soon as the water line exited the city water and goes to my house, the water line broke right there. The home's 7 years old. Well, I have no idea. How does one properly evaluate to know that's possible or could happen? This is a house I bought 5 years ago for $44,000. This water line cost me $14,000. For the next 6 years, it will not cash flow.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so when I evaluate that, I'm like, there's the risk associated with it's insane. Again, I've had everything happen. I had somebody get murdered in one of my properties. First murder in 23 years in the city.
Unbelievable.
Took place
are you
in
Des Moines, or which market are you in?
Yeah, that one was in Norwalk. So is this a submarket of Des Moines? Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
so I've had it all happen, man. And so what I'm suggesting is that it's much harder, much more challenging than one thinks. Our ability to flip a home is spot on. I'd rather flip because I can take all the cash that one would make over the course of, say, we've done the evaluation, depends on the house, but in some cases, 6 years to 10 years. Meaning if things go really well, you kept it as a rental, I could make cash flow, but it would take me 6 years versus flip the home. I'd make all that money today.
Yeah. It's so crazy that you say that because I'm now starting to hold more property. My first few years, we flipped everything.
Sure.
And, as of last year, we were on this run where we're just like, okay, well, we need to put some cash to work. And so we're going to start buying some properties. And so that's what we did. And we bought 10 properties in July of last year.
Yeah.
And thought that was a great idea. And it was, right? We're refinancing out of them. We're stabilized and rented and all that.
Yeah.
However, when I look at what the interest rates did on one of the houses I kept, I passed up on a $70,000 wholesale fee. And now I'm break even on cash flow. It's probably a B class neighborhood. So it's a great house.
Yeah.
It's a very long-term play. Yes, it's benefiting from tax and all of this other stuff, depreciation, equity, all of that. However, it makes me think, wow, what could I do with $70,000 with commercial real estate?
Sure.
What kind of a deal could I get into? So can we talk about that? Yeah. What kind of cash flow you look for in a deal, et cetera?
Yeah.
How it all plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's no doubt I'm looking for cash flow in all of these opportunities. What I'm trying to achieve on everything is a double-digit cash on cash return when I'm buying something.
So anything greater than 10%.
Yep. Now it depends on the asset. There's always some nuances depending on the deal, right? But yes, that's our goal, to be able to hit that level. I'm also looking to put long-term fixed rate debt in place, right? I'm trying to provide some optionalities for what in any given environment, what that looks like. And thankfully we were able to put on almost our entire portfolio, certainly up through the beginning of last year, 10-year fixed rate debt on everything. So I got a lot of 10-year fixed rate debt, sub 4.25 on a whole bunch of things. So I can make that work all day long, right? And
that's huge.
And not be pinched in such a way. And this is one thing that's worthy of understanding, that this is a nuance in commercial real estate as compared to residential, is you typically end up with bank financing, and most banks want to put you on a 5-year note. So at the end of 5 years, your note becomes 100% due and payable, which means you're going to refinance, which means you're exposed to interest rate risk on a short-term basis versus, I suspect a lot of those loans that you've done, you get to put on 30-year fixed rate loans. You want to maximize the number of 30-year fixed rate loans you have in place. And then that's just a big difference. 30-year fixed rate debt on industrial buildings does not exist.
Yeah. And you make a good point. So like when people are buying in a speculative market, say 2 years ago, the interest rates were very low.
Yep.
They're forecasting a certain number based off the current interest rate, but then their balloon comes up in 3 years when the rates are 8%.
Right.
What do you do? Like, you just had to buy it right enough to where you're going to be okay with the new debt service, because banks are going to be underwriting differently.
Correct.
Much differently.
Yeah.
So are you seeing any problems right now in the commercial real estate space?
Yeah. We're starting to get there, and I wouldn't call them problems. I'd call those, because from the seat I sit in, I call those opportunities. Because what we're going to see is a tremendous opportunity with what's coming, of exactly what you just described. It's a wonderful description you just put in place there, because there's plenty of people who didn't underwrite correctly, didn't have enough skin in the game, if you will. And there's going to be properties coming to market, either directly coming to market because they need to do something, or indirectly coming to market, meaning they're going to head back to the bank first and then they're coming to market.
Gotcha. And they're just going to be in a position to where they can't sell for the price they thought they could.
Yeah.
They can't refinance because the bank won't loan.
Yeah.
And so what do? So they got to take a haircut to get a short sale.
They have to take a haircut. And what's interesting about the environment, at least as we sit today, is that although we're in a technical recession, it's a recession that has failed to materialize in any real meaningful way.
Right.
Is that these properties are good properties, sound properties, solid stuff. They're not beat up. The tenants aren't a problem. It's just a function of the underlying economics of what was and what is today misaligned. And therefore, there now is a reprice that has to take place. I think the ability to buy really quality, sound assets at fair market value prices, I think there's tremendous opportunity that's coming.
I would agree. And when does this change? I'm very confused about the market. I didn't go through 2008. I think I was in high school. I wasn't.
You're a pup, man.
I know.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have a chance to sit down with you, because you've been through that. And so I'm just so confused about the current climate of the market.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are, but what and when do you see a potential problem arising with the interest rates still being somewhat high,
Yep.
the inventory still being low. How long of a trickle effect is it going to take before things finally start to sit?
Yeah, I think the answer is the cash needs to burn out of the environment. So what COVID did was send a whole bunch of cash to a whole bunch of us, and there's a bunch of people who've got it stockpiled. And so what we're seeing on the commercial side is, although there's about $500 billion worth of commercial real estate coming 100% due and payable this year, and that
Wow.
number continues, I'm rounding, but it's pretty close to that each year for the next 5 years. About 46% of all commercial mortgages come 100% due and payable from this year, 2023, through 2027. 46%. I mean, a tremendous amount of the loans come due. And so they have to refinance, they have to do something, right? But what we're seeing is the supply and demand is totally out of line. The number of opportunities in which one can purchase now in the environment just isn't there. And the demand is through the roof. And there's also tons of people have tons of cash. So when somebody, even if they're in a challenging position, they can still take a property to market today and get tremendous pricing that is out of line with what, normal pricing would be, meaning if you have to borrow at 7%, it should be something north of 7%. Well, there's plenty of buildings that will trade at lower than the going borrowing rate today
Okay.
because
And,
there's
and
so
that,
much cash.
that's what I've noticed as well.
Yeah,
And clearly, I mean, you had an advantage because you had cash on a
sure.
transaction.
Yeah.
And did you feel like you paid more than you were like? How do you think you paid in comparison to maybe what you would like to pay? Did you have to bid to a
Well,
certain price to win that?
like everybody, 2 days after closing, they're very optimistic. So you can ask me in a year and we'll see if my answer changes, right? I feel like we got a very sound, I'm very encouraged by where we're at right now. But if I sell one of those 2 lots in the next year, it's a tremendous deal. So we'll see what transpires. There's still the supply and demand, even on the leasing side. What we're seeing across the industrial board is that supply is super low, right? The vacancy rate is very small in many markets, below 5%. So meaning there's a tremendous demand for operators to lease space. So I'm encouraged today based on our ability to be able to lease that space and then potentially to be able to build a custom build for somebody and then lease another 20 or 30 or 40,000 square feet. But ask me a year from now, we'll see if it materializes.
All right, I will make note to myself. All right, so there's a lot of commercial opportunities, and we've talked about a handful of them. One thing that I'm extremely interested in getting my hands into is self-storage.
Sure.
And with all the money out there and so much competition, what do you think out of all of the things that we talked about, industrial self-storage, medical office, mobile home parks, apartment complexes, is there like a niche or like a sweet spot to where somebody who might be a little bit more aggressive could go tap into and really do really well in that niche rather than just trying to say, hey, I want to do all of this?
Yeah, you should not do all of it. You should pick one and go down that niche and really get solid at that. Is there one? It depends on one's personality. Why do I say that? As you know, from apartments are a little more involved, whether you manage or third party it. There's more moving pieces. You've got more tenants, more things that can go wrong. Mobile home parks, although you may just rent the ground, you do have a segment of population of people that are probably just a little different, as opposed to a business that you may never hear from, for example.
Sure.
So a business you may never hear from, it may be a straight triple net thing. And from a management standpoint, it's an absolute breeze. The self-storage, for example, which we own, it's a real estate business, yes, but you've got an operational, you're running a business.
Yeah.
You've got a consumer-facing operational business. And so your ability to execute on that, like what happens? How do they get in? How does somebody lease? What happens when they call? How do they lease over the phone? And there's solutions for all of that. But you've got a consumer-facing business. And so it's just something to be cognizant of that is a little more hands-on from a management standpoint, as opposed to a triple net industrial or office or retail building, for example. But that said, there's still a lot of mom and pop owners in self-storage, tremendous amount. And there is still a tremendous opportunity in self-storage. The big companies are trying the darn as hard as they can to roll up as much as they can. And so I think you're going to see that play out over a period of time. that if the big companies start rolling things up, you probably see pricing do really well for mom and pop operators who can execute at a really high level.
Okay. And do you see many mom and pop operators operating at a very high level? Because I've always heard, that's where the opportunities come, is
Yeah,
when these folks may get something a little bit too big for their britches,
sure.
and then their books are a disaster, and then maybe they become a tired landlord. And obviously I'm generalizing. That's one in however many people are out there.
Yes. No, I think that's fair. I think they become lazy. If you ask like where have I seen that? If I had to categorize it, where do I see opportunities? Because they become you
Complacent.
said tired. I'd say lazy. They
Yeah.
just cash flow is good. And once you get it going in a process, there isn't much to manage that thing. It's not overly intensive as opposed to, say, apartments, for example. I see a lot more burned out, tired landlords in apartments. And then just people who you said complacent, people who just get accustomed to the cash flow and the self storage, and there isn't much to do, and they just don't think about it
Yeah. And that makes sense.
for
And
sure.
we've been seeing a lot. I don't know about you, a ton of tired landlords as of
Yeah.
lately, more than ever. And so that brings me to my next thought is property management. Do
Mhm.
you outsource that? Do you do that yourself? What's that look like?
The triple net stuff we bring in house, and other than that, it goes. Just trying to think what else. We're self managing a mobile home park today, and which is for sale. So that has been relatively easy to manage. But other than that, we outsource it. So apartment gets outsourced. Self storage is outsourced as well.
Okay, cool. And what would you say has been your biggest success?
From a transaction standpoint, or just maybe biggest attributors to success.
Whichever road you
Yeah.
want to go down.
There's no transaction. We got plenty of success stories in a transaction, but there's nothing that, one transaction doesn't make your career, right?
Yeah,
Even on the
too bad
commercial
it doesn't,
side.
right?
Yeah, you might be done. So knowing that it's about the habitual things, right? Success is habitual. So it's all the little things that add up that lead to outcomes, that lead to success. So what would I say my biggest success is? Surrounding myself with people who are much, much smarter, much brighter than I am at the things they do. That would be it.
That's a great answer. I love that. And makes sense on why you're in the family mastermind. And
Yes. Great family. Love it.
what actually attracted you to the family, if you don't mind me asking? And as far as, do you educate as well on this topic? And can you talk maybe a little bit about that, as if that's the case?
Yeah, no. What attracted me to it was, yes, from an education standpoint and being around other high performing professionals in terms of what they do. We do a little education in terms of what I do to help people get their foot in the door. Not a lot. A lot of some of that comes down to, as we do syndicate on occasion. So occasionally we'll take money in and place investors in deals. That to me is an education process too. Is how does somebody, what are all the things they want to know? And we want to make sure that it's a sound, that we're putting them in the right spot, that they understand exactly what they're doing, how to invest, whether it's with us or with somebody else. So we do some education on that standpoint as well.
Okay. And what are some things that people need to know when investing into a syndication? Like, is it just the terms, the time, those types of things, or what
Right.
specifics?
But the biggest one is, who are you investing with? It starts with that person, that operator, and then secondly, it goes to the deal. If you got to know them, you like them, and you have to trust them. Otherwise, the deal does not matter to me.
I would agree with that.
So that's where it starts. And then understanding, after that, once you get to know somebody, it's what's their perspective? How are they investing? Why are they investing? So for us, we're very heavily focused on industrial, and I've got a free giveaway, which I'm happy to give folks a white paper download from our website that really articulates and outlines, why are we doing what we're doing? What do I see coming? Where do I see the environment that we're operating in today? And what the opportunity is that's really forthcoming. And then from there, once you can buy into, okay, cool, I understand their perspective, why industrial or why apartments or why self storage, whatever the asset happens to be, then you're down into a particular deal. So once a deal gets presented, what are the ins and outs of that deal? What's the debt load on the deal? What's our time frame what's the business plan for that particular deal?
Gotcha. Yeah, and there's a lot of moving parts with that. But yeah, I think that would be amazing if you wouldn't mind sharing that. listeners will get a ton of value for that. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. So could you share that link?
Absolutely. Yes. It's Legacy Impact Investors, legacyimpactinvestors.com, right there on the homepage. And it's titled How to Passively Invest in a Changing Economy. Michael, I think you and I both agree we're in a changing environment, right?
100%. Absolutely. And if you don't know that, you might be living under a rock right now.
Yeah. And so I read a lot of economic reports and try to understand what's coming because, it's not just, we don't invest in a vacuum. It's not about just what's happening right now. I've got to project out what's happening in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years to go, where are things headed? And we do that same thing when we evaluate tenants. When I take a tenant on who's going to move into one of our properties on an industrial building, we're going to get married to them. I use that in quotes, right? For 5 years or 10 years. And so we do a deep dive. We want to underwrite and understand who is this tenant because the value of that building is directly correlated to the propensity for them to pay rent.
Yeah. Such a good point. I was going to ask you, but you kind of already answered, is clearly you've built an amazing portfolio empire, really very impressive. So well done on that.
Thank you.
What keeps you going? Like, why do you continue to drive the needle forward and educate and show others this business? Just out of curiosity, so what is the reason?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's pretty fun, man. It's fun. We all have to live for a passion of some nature. And for me, it's fun to show up every day. It's fun to get to work with the people I get to work with here on my team. It's fun to connect with investors, knowing that I can help them move forward, help educate them, put them in a better spot than a stock market or multiple other options that they may possess, and educate them and empower them to make better decisions. Because let's be honest, when somebody invests with me, I'm not taking all their money. They're investing in a whole bunch of other things, a multitude of other things. So it's not just, can I give them a return? It's because can I make them a better investor across their whole portfolio outside of me? I love that. I love knowing that I get to make an impact. Hence, Legacy Impact Investors. The name's right in the title is that, we have a defined period of time here on the planet, and I want to know that I made a positive impact in people's lives.
That's powerful, man. And I love that because you can tell when somebody's passionate about what they're doing, and it doesn't feel like work. That's the best thing.
Yeah.
I wake up and I'm like, how did this even happen? Like, what a blessing to be able to work on real estate in my business, do what I want. It's just, and help others while doing the same thing. So check it out, guys. LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Is that correct there?
You got it.
Beautiful. All right. So we'll drop the show link in the show link here. Now, Neil, any last final thoughts that you would like to leave listeners with?
Good question. It's just taking, what you just said, I'll piggyback on that. I think you and I become happy and so joyful at what we do because we get to take control of our future. And for a lot of people I talk to in this industry, they can do the same thing. For those who are not yet in this industry or not in the industry and have no intention of entering the industry, it's the ability to invest and take control of their future. I talk to a number of people, they get disenfranchised from the stock market because it doesn't feel like they have any control. And some of that is because nobody even understands exactly what's transpiring there. It feels like it's paper shuffling largely. That when you can invest in a real asset and have real control over your future, it's empowering. It's empowering and it's powerful at the end of the day.
Very powerful, man. And if you guys are interested, even if you're not looking to go buy your own properties, looks like Neil has a way that you can invest with him as well. And so grab that download. I know I'm going to take advantage of. It's how to passively invest in a changing economy. And we're in a changing economy right now. So what a great time to get educated on that. So dude, this has been awesome. Thank you so much, Neil. I appreciate it.
It's my honor to be here. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Of course. And for you guys listening, if you got value from today's episode, please like, share, subscribe, go follow Neil. All the links are in the description here. And until next time, happy investing and take care and have an amazing day. Boom, another episode in the books. Thank you guys again for listening. Before I let you go, I just wanted to invite you to our Facebook group, Virtual Deal Makers. It's a perfect place to connect and collaborate with other like-minded real estate investors. And all you have to do is simply search Virtual Deal Makers on Facebook and apply to join the group. Thanks again to our sponsor, Property Pros Marketing, for supporting the show. Go ahead and check them out at propertyprosmarketing.com to elevate your lead generation. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really helps, and we greatly appreciate it. Share the podcast with your friends, and stay tuned for more valuable insights. Visit thevirtualmillionaires.com to see everything about the episode and connect with me. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, keep crushing those deals and building your real estate empire. This is Michael McDonald signing off from The Virtual Millionaire Show.